Now hitting on the cameras, we have to do it. This phone, as I mentioned before, has that dual camera setup on the back, a 16 megapixel wide angle lens, and then a 20 megapixel wide angle lens as well. So I guess there wasn't an ultra wide or a telephoto or anything. Now I'm not too sure what that additional lens was at the time, but I'm sure it helped out some photos. Now you do have the ability of shooting 4K at 60, which is really good. And one of my favorite things about OnePlus is that their software for their camera is actually pretty decent. I feel like Samsung kills it in their software for the cameras, but OnePlus kills it in their software in every other area. So I think it's totally, okay. Now the bigger problem, as I mentioned before, with this type of camera is that we don't really have a telephoto. I guess we don't have an ultra wide lens looking at the spec sheet. And as I mentioned before, that may be a bigger issue. When we're in this day and age, we want to have the most amount of lenses and have the most amount of capability. And when you get a device like this, that really isn't 100% the case. It's still going to be pretty good. It's still going to be fine for a lot of people, but that is an issue that you're probably going to end up running into. And it's something that you should probably be made aware of. But other than that, whenever I did anything with this phone, or whenever I took photos or videos, it was a pretty good experience. I think it was a very smooth experience. There were some glitchiness whenever I would take a photo. To be honest, compared to this day and age, it feels like with any iPhone or Samsung or OnePlus device that I take photos of this year, it just seems so much more smoother and so much more, I guess, faster in a way. But I really do think this device, for the most part, is still totally okay for that back camera. The front camera, on the other hand, may be the bigger issue. So it's a 16 megapixel lens, and I feel like we've had 16 megapixel lenses on every single OnePlus device for so many years now, and this is one of those bigger issues. Only 1080p at 30. I feel like in this day and age, as I mentioned before, we need to have at least 4K at 60 on the front. That is like a must-have nowadays, or maybe at least like 1080p at 60 with the ability of going to 4K at 30. That's something that's extremely important in my opinion. You should have that ability no matter what. And of course, this phone came out a couple years ago, so it's totally okay. But any phone that comes out nowadays, I'm expecting it to at least be able to do 1080p at 60 and 4K at 30. So I think as long as you don't use the front camera an insane amount, you may be okay for the most part for this device. So in terms of the camera, that pretty much covers it up. Now